Welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy, a podcast where we ask the question, what is it about horror that makes us happy? Your hosts are Steve Becker and myself, Chris Whitman, and you can find out more about us at our website, horrormakesushappy.com. You got a link tree for all sorts of other things there, so you can visit all our socials and other endeavors and whatnots. Before we get started, this is the trigger warning. This is a podcast about horror stuff. We talk about horror things, so there could be sensitive topics, foul language, and discussions about violence and such. However, that is not to say that that's the entirety of the podcast. It's actually more of a psychological delve into what it is people enjoy about the horror genre itself. Yeah, with that out of the way.
Today we're talking to Manal El-Feitury, actress best known for her work on Code Red, Hellboy, and Subservience. Although I understand you're into a lot more than just acting now. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Best known for probably musical theatre, I'd say.
Oh, really?
Nice.
I'm a singer and can kind of dance actress. So I started 6 years in the West End in the UK.
Oh, nice.
And, yeah.
No, I was referring more for the horror audience, but no, that I was looking through your IMDb and you've got 20 or 30 credits, and I think only like 3 or 4 of them are horror related.
Yeah.
Before we dig into the meat of the interview, you want to let people know what you're currently working on?
Well, see, when you said horror, a lot of people really dislike musical theatre. So making my partner musical show could be quite horrific for him. So, yeah. Sorry, did you ask a question?
I did. Before we get into the meat of the interview, do you want to let people know what you're currently working on?
I am actually producing a show for Bulgaria's Got Talent. I decided to enter because I'm kind of based out here a lot of the time. So I wanted to showcase myself as a producer. So I have a cast of 18 amazingly talented Bulgarian artists. Yeah. And we're in the semi-finals. So let's hope to get to the finals.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, the theme of this podcast is less about your body of work and more about you as a fan of the genre. That said, your work may come up, it may not, depends on how the conversation goes. But starting with childhood, what are some of your earliest memories of scary things?
Freddy Krueger.
Okay.
Yeah, I was pretty tiny, and my older sisters got to watch it, and they would come and wake me up with like these nails tapping. And I remember being hysterical at the beginning of Michael Jackson's Thriller. That
Yes.
and they would be really mean and turn off all the lights and play it.
Yeah.
If the truth be known, I'm not the biggest fan of horror movies.
Okay.
I get very scared. I'm fine acting in them because I know it's acting, but when I watch it, yeah. Which is interesting because Code Red was my first ever big movie, and I was the lead in it. There were parts of it I didn't like watching, but I was there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I imagine it's a different scenario when you're acting. You're actively in the role and acting in it for the sake of redundancy. But different when you're watching and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And then the music that they put behind, and it's very,
very different atmosphere. No, I could relate. I personally don't consider myself a horror fan. Chris is the horror fan. I'm the psychology buff. That said, I also have had experience watching horror movies since a very early age, just not as deep of a breadth, or breadth, I guess I should say, as somebody that I would consider to be, a quote unquote true horror fan. But, there are other people that we've talked to who have been busy in the industry, who claimed that they weren't horror fans. And then as we got further into the conversation, things, kind of arose that didn't necessarily come to mind initially when we started the call. So, we'll see what happens.
Okay. So you're trying to move me to the other side.
Maybe.
Well, it's not just that. Like for example, when we talked to Ken Foray, who is in a number of horror films, when we were talking to him about the things that he has watched in his not just as part of his career, but the stuff that he watches on the side. He was bringing out movies that like I had never seen, and so I'm sitting there thinking to myself, if you're not a fan of something, you're not going to. Why would you even watch that? And but in his case, at least for him, for example, the main theme of his call that we wound up coming up to was that he was more a fan of like, I don't want to say the hero's journey, but like the struggle. There's a protagonist and an antagonist in that whole dynamic, which is present in horror, but other genres as well. And that's something that we'll touch on towards the end too. Is we'll go through talking about childhood, teenage years, adulthood, find out what you were interested in, see if we can find a common theme. And then at the end, we'll talk about, why is horror a good avenue for those themes, or is there some other genre that is more important to you? And so that might come up too.
You're sorry, I'm a little bit confused with the voices. This is the psychologist that was just talking. Is that correct?
Yes. To be clear, I'm not a psychologist, just a psychology buff.
Okay.
Yes.
See, that's interesting because your approach on this is what made them that way, and that makes you interested in the whys of situations. Instead of maybe like just really loving an action scene or something very gory and stuff.
There are some guests that we've talked to where it was just a love, and there's two ways of looking at it. There's trauma-based and joy-based, and if for people who are joy-based, like purely joy, it can be really hard to dig to something to that, because like, how do you ask what makes you happy? Why are you happy? But for other people, there can be things related to fears or traumas, or not even things that they've personally experienced, but just things that concern them, like power dynamics or memory loss or grief, processing emotions. Like there's all kinds of different reasons that people could find something in horror that touches them on a personal level. But each person is different.
Yeah.
Yes. So you had mentioned Freddy Krueger, Thriller. Anything else really stand out to you from when you were a kid?
It sounds really bad.
If not, that's fine.
It's okay to have had a non-scary and normal and comfortable childhood.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. But the other thing too, a lot of guests have talked about is things that you wouldn't think of as horror, but there was something in it that scared them. Like we talked to one guest who liked, what was it? Fievel Goes West. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was an American Tale because the villain was so over animated and evil. It was just very scary.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, also he pointed out there was a scene where the main character loses his family in the fog, and he can't find them, and they like just pass each other, but they miss each other.
Yeah, I never really thought about that at the time.
Fears of abandonment.
Yeah, like that is a children's cartoon, and that's some pretty heavy stuff to put in the film. I think it was fairly early on in the film too.
Yeah, there was a song around that scene as well, I think. Mm-hmm. But yeah, kids stuff is scary.
It can be, yeah.
A lot of fables and like the old Grimm's Brothers books. Oh my God, they're horrific. But it's I don't know. Would you consider something like Dexter, the series, horror? Is that horror?
I would say so. Yes.
Yeah.
At least Thriller.
Yeah, Thriller definitely. See, stuff like that I like.
Mm-hmm.
I find it very interesting.
A little bit more plot, a little bit more development, and less splitting people open with a chainsaw.
Yeah, I would find it extremely fun, like acting a role, being chased by a chainsaw or having a chainsaw.
It does look fun.
It's not really my thing. I think watching it, it doesn't float my boat as such, but it's definitely fun to act in. I think something like the Joker movie again is that considered horror?
Some people
the new one with Joaquin Phoenix, maybe.
Yeah. Parts of it I think was a little bit grim and psychological. But,
it's definitely a dark film.
It's a dark film, yeah. So,
well, that's another one that touches on mental illness too.
Yeah.
Yes. Huge. But I think I don't think that there can be a horror character without them suffering with some sort of mental illness. It's not considered what we would consider normal, going through these processes. And when you like backstory on these main characters, like, they've gone through something really traumatic and upsetting. And oh, can you hear that? Dexter agrees with me. Yeah.
Well, was there a particular scene, for example, in the Nightmare on Elm Street series that you remember scaring you?
The song. Do you remember the song? 1, 2, friends coming for you.
It's a very creepy song.
Oh, I remember. Yeah. And the oven. I don't know why the oven. But there was always these scenes with ovens.
Oh yeah. Like the I think the scenes in the backstory or the origin story of Freddy when he was in. I think there was an oven involved in the boiler room,
right?
Where he was burned, where he got his bad face. Basically.
Yeah,
exactly. Mm-hmm. Exorcist, the head turning, that type of stuff.
I really hope you're not a member of the club of many people we've talked to who saw Exorcist at a very young age, because I didn't see it until I was an adult. And the crucifix scene, wow. That is a thing to witness as a child.
Yeah. And Carrie.
Uh-huh.
I think I watched a lot when I was younger. That's probably why I don't watch them now.
Yeah.
I blocked it out.
That makes sense.
I don't know what I'm going to talk about in horror, my horror podcast. I've got nothing to share, and now you want to okay.
Quite all right.
That's what the youngest of 5 does. Because they probably enjoyed. They were creating a little horror movie in the living room with us.
Or they were comfortable with it and enjoying the fact that you were not yet ready for that.
Exactly.
Was there anybody in the family who was a fan of horror?
My eldest sister used to just find them hilarious. She'd just laugh at them. She still does. It's funny that I'm the one that is in the industry, and even knowing how it all works, that I still just don't like watching it. But then yeah. I prefer to watch cat videos.
Many people do.
Yeah.
Let's see. Did you participate in Halloween? I know you grew up in...
I love dressing up. You didn't ask me, do you like dressing up in Halloween costumes? That I can talk about.
Okay.
There we go.
Favorite costume? In your childhood, I mean?
I don't go after sort of like the Harlequins or, the bride, whatever. I don't do traditional ones. I kind of make alternative, weird, just gruesome type costumes. I normally tend to gig on something like Halloween, so I'll be doing a gig in Albania, and I've got 4 sets, and I'm going to wear 4 different costumes. So if you're on my Instagram, you can take a little look at what I come up with. But yeah, I definitely love playing dress up.
Do you remember a favorite costume from childhood?
He-Man, I think I got.
How about a least favorite costume? Do you remember?
Yes, the least favorite was when Halloween trick-or-treats and Mum would forget to get us something. So it was just black tights stuffed with socks. You were a cat.
Like a non-costume.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little bit more effort and creative than just, the sheet, the classic ghost.
Well, there was 5 of us, so I think I'm sure.
So one of you had to be the sheet, one of you had to be the cat, and the other one was maybe a witch.
Yeah, the other one was the dealer. The banker.
Okay. for Halloween costume.
That's I still think that would be a scary Halloween costume. Actually, one of the most, I don't know if you remember, there was a dentist that was exposed really badly some years ago for hunting. He had a picture next to an animal somewhere in maybe South Africa or something.
I do vaguely recall that. Yeah,
I remember Jimmy John from Jimmy John's was outed as being a sport hunter of large game and things like that. But a dentist, huh?
Yeah, a dentist. But everyone dressed up as a dentist and had a lion teddy bear stuck to them.
Oh.
Wow. Yeah, it's like when Steve Irwin died, there were people dressing up as Steve Irwin with a stingray sticking out of their chest.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah, we live in a dark world.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Did you have any scary dreams as a kid or reoccurring nightmares?
Yeah, me and my sisters did, actually. That was weird.
Like a shared dream kind of thing? Or?
Yeah. It was very strange. The three of us would dream about being in a car. Oh, sorry, my cats are going at it again. Yeah, we all were in this car that had no brakes. And it was... Sorry, I need to...
Break up
Bring
the
it out
fight.
now.
I don't want to mess up your podcast. Yeah, so there was a car with no brakes and it was just going extremely fast and we couldn't stop it and we kept on switching between each other. But it was strange that we all said it like near enough on this like same day to my mum. Yeah.
Very odd.
And what's really odd, we all have a mutant hair. I think that's a bit horrific.
Okay.
In exactly the same place. In between my chair and my boobs. Like one random mutant hair about 2 inches long.
Oh, I didn't know what you meant by... I was like, I thought you were talking about, it being curly. I'm like, that's not mutant. What are you talking about?
It's like just one hair that grows out. Like it's not there one day and then you wake up in the morning and it's there.
I thought you were talking about a giant mutant rabbit.
Oh, that would be
Hare.
Ah.
Yeah.
Any
I'm here for
other
moral support and bad jokes.
Oh god, very bad jokes. Let's see. Okay, in a car with sisters with no brakes.
I thought of another horror movie. Is it Purge, where people like once a year people can just go out and like do whatever they want? Yeah, I watch those.
I'm guessing that would be adults, not child.
Yes.
Okay.
That was very interesting. That was the psychology behind that is phenomenal.
Yeah. The first one's very interesting. They kind of devolve over. I think there's like 4 or 5 now, but the first one was definitely something new and interesting. Yeah.
I think I only watched the first 2, and by the second, I was like, okay,
those are the good ones. You're good. Just stop there.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens.
Was there ever a time in your childhood when something terrified you in real life?
Not really.
Okay. I mean, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I was quiet as a child up until about 9, and then I don't know what happened.
I was just going to say, and then what happened?
And then, so my mom said, I don't know what happened to you. You used to be such a good girl. I think being the youngest, and when you've got older siblings, you can take that back role and just kind of trot along with, like, just being behind them. But maybe because of having such a big clan, nothing really scared me, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Was there ever a time in your childhood when you felt exceptionally calm or blissful?
You're reading these questions, aren't you? Who are you?
We do. We have the same thing. What's that?
I said, am I getting sectioned?
No. We follow the same format through pretty much all of our calls, and not every question is going to land for every guest, but you never know until you ask, and sometimes some surprising things come up.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, what was the question before I rudely interrupted you?
Whether or not there was a time in your childhood when you felt exceptionally calm or at bliss.
Kind of the opposite of the last question.
I think as a kid, I was generally just quite chill. Like, as long as I had food, I didn't start eating solid food. I was actually breastfed till about 2.5, which is quite late. But I was a pretty content child. Like, as long as I had food and like the Care Bears on, I was pretty easy.
Okay.
Yeah, no huge traumatic something or other. I think that
that's a good thing.
Yeah. Once again, it's a good thing to have a normal, untraumatized, healthy childhood.
The next 2 questions also come as a pair. We'll start with the negative one so we can end on the positive.
Okay.
Do you remember the first person you hurt?
What type of hurt?
Can be physical or emotional.
Whatever comes to mind first.
Okay, physical, my sisters.
Yep, that's common. Yeah. Anytime we ask this question and someone has siblings, it's always just, sibling fights. Yep.
My mum says that was the first part of changing of my character. I used to be very quiet and as the youngest, I was always the patient in doctors and nurses as long as they gave me sweets and, just the gopher of every game. And she said, I was in the kitchen, I was watching, and your sisters were in front of you, like, like, and I was like, please, can you move from the TV? I'm trying to watch my cartoons. Please, can you move? And I kept repeating it. And then at some point, I just got up and grabbed both their heads.
Everyone has their boiling point.
You grab their heads and smash them together. Because my sister Sophia was older than me, but at some point she stopped growing, and I was like a really like chubby baby and toddler, and in fact teenager, and I grew bigger than them and stronger than them. So by about 3, I was already bigger than my.
Oh wow!
And this sweet, like, I told you not to do it, came through.
I can relate. There was a time I remember I was driving with my father in the car, and he was teasing me. We were driving somewhere, and we had stopped, and I'd gotten like a bag of potatoes. I was super hungry, really hungry, and he was playing this stupid game where he decided he was going to take the bag away from me and like tease me about it. And because I was too young to know what I was doing, I reached over with one hand and grabbed the steering wheel and used that to pull myself over.
Oh no.
To get the bag out of his hand.
Oh no.
Scared the shit out of him. He was like, don't you ever do that again. And I remember sitting there in the seat like, well, then don't take my potato chips again.
Yeah.
Shit happens.
When kids realize they've got choices. Yeah.
So do you remember the first person you helped?
The helper.
This one,
because like that word in psychological terms is not necessarily the most positive.
Really?
For sure.
No, I think I see where you're going with this. Like, you can help someone without them knowing it, or help someone by helping them overcome something, but maybe by doing something they don't necessarily want to do.
Do you know a psychologist called Gabor Matea?
I do not.
He talks. He basically worked with patients that were on the verge of death, and then drug addicts for his whole life. Like, definitely, like, he's a phenomenal man and has done amazing work and research. And he talks about these terminologies of, like, you know, the carer, the helper, the more like dominant person, so on and so forth. And the helper is actually somebody who helps everyone else in the sense that they need the help themselves. You know, they wish that would happen. So in this, you know, in the psychological term, sometimes being the helper is not the best or most positive thing, because you know, helping yourself is actually part of helping others as well.
You almost become the sin eater at that point.
Yeah, he spoke about one woman, a cancer patient, and she passed, but that was one of the studies that he did, and she was that woman, you know, the one that was at the after school kids clubs, that was helping this and doing this and doing this, and even through like her chemotherapy, she was still doing it. When at one moment, like, your body just breaks down and says, like, stop. And that's part of the reason why I'm in Bulgaria, because that is part of my nature. I actually studied applied behavioral analysis for special needs kids. And it's part of my nature, also being the youngest, to serve, and a characteristic, hence animals and things like that. So by the by, I can't remember, but it's just something that I actually work against doing as I'm getting older. To, like, the word selfish is seen as a bad word, but it's actually, like, I think more to do with self-love, like knowing your boundaries of when.
I've always like to say that I find that word to be a judo move. People who are selfish tell other people that they're being selfish to make them do the things that selfish people want them to do. Yeah,
for sure. Absolutely, for sure. Because, you know, an empath or a helper would be like, oh, no, I don't want to be selfish to you. You know, I mentioned before we started, sorry, can you hear the cats? 1 second.
They're going at it again. They don't like each other.
Cats are really mean. Like, one of my older cats, who is a bit of an alpha, is sick. And Now, the other male cat is definitely picking on him because he knows he's not his best.
Speaking of siblings.
Yes.
Yeah, right. I was going to say it's like a sibling rivalry thing. Like, now it's my chance. You're weak.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Sorry, we were in something very juicy.
The helper role.
And it cut off. Yeah. The helper. Yeah. I was saying before we started this call, I did my first short film and it won an award in the UK. It was about mental health and it could be seen as multiple personality disorder or just, being in lockdown in COVID and, you saw the whole world becoming these different people. Like, I think in London, like there was no more alcohol in half of the supermarkets because people had either turned into like these alcoholics or people were, personal training on their Instagrams and cooking and this and this and this and this. So, the helper roles were actually the people that suffered a lot, I think. Thank God, actually, because I was here. I was with like my best friend who came out for skiing and then we got told it was on lockdown. So she ended up staying with me for 3 months. And also another 2 of my friends lived in my same block. So it was quite nice for me. As horrible as that to say, I didn't find it that bad at that time.
Yeah, same here.
Comparatively.
Nice.
Yeah. And the movie was based around mental health. And then Robin Williams is one of my all-time like amazing human gods. And he actually, I think, spoke very openly about that role, that helper role, that healer role. And one of his quotes, it's not exact, but I never want anyone to feel the loneliness that I felt, that's why I do it, or something like that. It's at the beginning of my movie and I can't even remember quoting it. But yeah, there's when you said it was finishing on a positive side, it depends where you look at that type of characteristic. But then any characteristic, I think, taken to any extreme is probably not good.
It's true. Everything in moderation.
Yeah. What's interesting is that, so normally the way these calls go is we talk about childhood, then teenage years, then adulthood, and then we kind of do a wrap up at the end. And you're almost jumping towards the end where like here we would maybe talk about, okay, this is the first time I remember helping somebody. And then towards the end, maybe we would sum things up. And it sounds like you may have already done a lot of the homework, therapy kind of stuff. Although you said you went to school for, I think you said applied behavior. So, you may have already done a lot of work in this regard, which is fine. There have been other guests that we've talked to some of them have, been in their 60s and they're like, oh yeah, I've already done all of this. I've done this work. I'm interested though, because when we asked, do you remember the first person you helped? You didn't even answer what the memory was. You just went straight into, I think it might've been unhealthy.
Okay. The first, okay. I because as you said that, I'm like, God, who like, I couldn't recall it, but now as you've repeated that again, there was a little boy called Roham in my class and he was bullied really badly. And I remember being about 4 or 5 and telling everyone he was my boyfriend and holding his hand. And then my sisters went on to tease me like really badly because like he looked a certain way, and even like growing up they'd be like, oh, you love Roham, and that was they didn't see that as maybe a good thing. But even as a tiny person, like I always gravitated to the weakest. So when you said, are you scared? No. In life, like I've been around, like, for example, street accidents, and I'm that first person that stands in. I remember hearing about bystander apathy in psychology, and I was like, what the hell is that? Like, how do people do that? And, we do it all day, every day, living in the world we live in and how dark it is. Like, you can't help but sometimes, like, you're powerless sometimes. But, like, when something's in front of you, like, are you going to do something and stand up, or are you the person that goes into shock and freezes? And again, neither one of them are good. I got punched in the face because I got into an argument. A guy hit a girl in front of me and I stood up and the girl hit me. And I was like, what
That is not where I thought that was going.
Really?
I'm assuming she was trying to hit the other person and not you. It was an accident.
Right.
No, she really was.
Bitch.
Mind your business.
Yeah, it was literally like that. So, helping in that type of a situation, like, you don't really need to help. But yeah, just general like things that happen in life in that way.
Just picturing the scene from Monty Python. French. Why are you in England? Mind your business.
That's funny though. Why are you in England? Mind your business. Like, I get that being in Bulgaria when people are like, "Oh, but why are you doing this? Why are you in Bulgaria? Why are you here?" I've done a TEDx talk about why Bulgaria because I get asked it that much.
But why Bulgaria? No.
TEDx.
Why male models? Sorry. Let's see. Exorcist and Carrie. Did you see those when you were a kid, or did that come later?
Kid. And that was really scary when my time of the month women thing happened. Oh no.
Oh God.
I'm Carrie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never even thought about that. Like, Carrie is one that comes up often, as well as The Exorcist. But Carrie, a little girl seeing that at a very young age, is probably unfair to a lot of parents because now they're like, "Well, thanks, Carrie. Now I gotta have the talk. She's 6. What the fuck?"
Well, shouldn't be having a 6-year-old watch Carrie. First of all,
what were they throwing at her? Don't worry about it. We'll talk about that later. They were little baby mice. Yeah.
No, that was all ruined for me. I knew everything. My favorite storybook was Dumbo. Do you remember Dumbo?
Yeah. The elephant with the ears.
Yeah, and there was a book that had a stork with a baby in it, and I thought, "Oh, this is Dumbo." My older sister, like my mom, was trying to get us out the library because we had lots of libraries at that time. And my sister's like, yeah, mummy, get her that one. So The Birds and the Bees were explained to me very, very easy. It wasn't actually a Dumbo book.
I was going to say, I don't remember that being in Dumbo.
Yeah, right?
So
there was a stork.
It was the stork dropped Dumbo in, and I thought it would be a similar cute book. And lo and behold, to my horror, it was not.
A lot of torture going on with the sisters here, I see.
Hey.
Just sibling rivalry, just sibling shenanigans.
It's not rivalry. I just think it's it's always said that the youngest ones are the spoilt ones. I don't think they are.
No. They're spoiled by the parents, but not by the siblings. The siblings have to, keep the balance. Yeah. As it were.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Can go either way depending on how much the parents are paying attention. Let's see. How about teen years? Any books or stories, really scary stuff jump out to you from your teen years?
Cats are fighting again. Not really. I think as a teenager, I was a bit of a nightmare in general, but
you were the nightmare.
Adolescence itself was the nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. That was just like, a lot, I think. I think I was way older than my years, and that's maybe why I liked it. So I didn't really get a lot of the big insecurity stuff or like huge heartbreaks. Saying that out loud, I'm like, I'm a little bit boring.
Boring but safe.
Not like my animals.
Somebody's got the zoomies.
Yes.
Yeah, they literally are. They're like, we need to behave.
It's too calm around here.
Yeah.
Any reoccurring dreams or scary dreams as a teen?
I don't dream. I'm such a heavy sleeper. But
me too.
I literally like fall asleep like a log, and then I'm up really early.
I wish I had that problem. I do not.
That's horrible.
I wish I remembered dreams. I missed them.
I even tried remembering dreams. This like the huge craze that, what was it called? Quantum jumping. Like
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, you can meditate yourself down and then go into different like realms and
astral projection.
Maybe.
Similar. Yeah, astral projection isn't the word I was looking for, but it's
dream fasting.
Lucid dreaming is...
well, there's lucid dreaming too, but that's different.
But it's not the same as quantum jumping.
No, I can do lucid dreaming, but not astral projection.
You can do lucid dreaming.
Yes. Well, sometimes. My brain actually, my subconscious and I kind of have this cat and mouse game where I was able to do that for a while, and then I guess my brain decided it didn't like me doing that anymore, and so it started doing this thing where it gives me these dreams where it kind of floods me with an emotion before I'm able to figure out that I'm in a dream, and then the emotion is so strong that it wakes me up. So it's like either I brought this up actually on a recent call. My last one was a dream about my father who has passed away, but in my dream he was still away, still with us and in this particular house. In the dream, it was my birthday. He had given me a pair of shoes. I opened the box. One of them was a new shoe. One of them was one of his old shoes that I took over to him in the kitchen to show him. In the dream, he had recently suppressed cancer, which he had done 2 or 3 times before he passed away. And so in the dream, this was right after he had put it into remission. That's the word I was looking for. But he still had like this brain fog from going through the chemo. And so I show him, he gave me, one of your shoes in the box, and he laughs and he says, all right, I'll mail you the other one. So I go to put the box back in the other room. And I look out the window and I see a tornado barreling towards the house that we're in. And so I try to warn my father, we need to get in the basement, but I can't get the words out of my mouth. And so when I wake up, I'm saying tornado, 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 dad. And it's that, the desire to, connect with my father again and warn him about this danger that's coming on. But because it happened so quickly, I never had a moment to realize, hey, this is a dream. But in the past, other dreams that have happened where it's more of like a situation like this, where it's a slice of life kind of thing. If it happens long enough, I'll eventually realize that it's a dream and then go, well, if I know I'm dreaming, then I could do this or that. So
okay, I was wondering what that was going to have to do with lucid dreaming, but you're saying that was one of the quicker dreams where normally you have that ability, but when they're fast paced like that, it is almost like your mind is.
I don't have time to process the fact that I'm in a dream. Instead, my brain is trying to get me to process the emotion. Well, and I like to say that we're not just pattern processing machines; we're also emotion processing machines, and that's part of what dreams are. There are multiple different kinds of dreams, but some of them are just our subconscious saying, "Here's a situation. What would you do with it?"
Yep.
And I guess, I've gotten good enough that with the lucid dreaming, that part of my brain is like, but we don't want you to do that. I want you to think about what would you, prepare for this situation. So
could you take a different question to it and say that maybe somewhere in your subconscious, you haven't actually worked through the whole process of losing him and maybe feeling like you wanted to do something more for him?
Yes and no. I mean, the situation with his passing is that he was refusing treatment towards the end. It was just a whole topic, but yes, there was more. If there was anything unfinished, it's more anger towards him for being the stubborn jerk that he was. He was refusing to participate in his own care. But that's again a whole other topic. No, he had caught COVID after putting cancer into remission, but one of the side effects of the version of chemo or of COVID that he got is that it suppressed his appetite, and he was confusing that with the loss of appetite that he would get from chemo sickness, and so he was convinced that he was actually undergoing chemo sickness, even though it had now been 6 months and more since he had finished chemotherapy. There's no way it was still related to the chemo, but he refused to believe that. Was convinced that none of the doctors knew what the hell they were doing and wanted to be sent home, even though he was so weak that he couldn't even sit up in bed, much less walk to the bathroom. And so he was bouncing in and out of rehab centers with them trying to tell him basically, we're trying to help you do the weight training to gain your muscle back so that you can go home to take care of yourself. But he refused to participate in it and basically just withered away until his body ate itself. So
I'm so sorry to hear for your loss and what you went through. That's
I appreciate that. I have kind of made my peace with that. I mean, there's only so much you can do about it, and it was his choice to do what he did. I have realized at a certain point that he was probably borderline dementia because of, the lack of nutrition that he was getting was probably causing some mental issues. But, they have a scale that they rate people on for that. And he was right on that borderline where he seemed like he was competent about everything else in life, just not his healthcare. And so the places that we were going to, they basically didn't allow us to, how can I say this? They didn't want to say that he had dementia until it was already so far gone that there was nothing that could be done anymore. So, but that's not, I'm not angry about that. That's just how it happened.
I've noticed it.
My dad passed away similarly nearly 3 years ago now. And I had just finished filming a series called Sunny Beach. And talking about dreams, I don't dream very much, but sometimes when I do dream, they're not connected to very good things. One being the first time he had cancer. And it was a very strange situation where I just woke up and I felt like I had to call my sister and tell her about this dream. And I was like, listen, I had a really weird dream. I don't think anything of it, but it felt really strong. And it was about daddy. And it was something in his stomach. And she just burst into tears and said, I've been in hospital with him. There's something wrong and they don't know what it is. And I said, well, tell them to check around, his pancreas area and stuff like that. Like it was literally there, like he was complaining about it. Anyway, he had cancer they removed it. And consequently, I was doing my stuff and had to come here. I was filming and he was fine for like a year and a half. And he's an extra military man and very into like the alternative and not so much into science and what's going on. And then when I got told he had about a month to live, I decided to go back to look after him because my parents divorced when I was very young and I didn't really have time to know him. And he did not want treatment. He did not want it. And when you go to end of life, there's a protocol that the hospitals give out. And in all honesty, if you take that, then yeah, you will be dead in a week because, it's, morphine. There was one of the drugs that basically deletes memories, old and new. It's not the same as what your dad was facing. It's totally different. But at that point, I was like, I'm going to do what he wants to do. And, he was so stubborn. Like, I literally had to say, I'm homeless. Do you mind if I move in with you? Because I couldn't say, I'm coming to look after you. He just wouldn't have it at all. And
right. You had to present it to him as an option where he was helping you.
Exactly. And he ended up living another 9 months. And I've never lived with my dad. Remember my dad. And honestly, there's so many parts of me as a little girl that has been so healed and so like, and I knew what it was like. He would like men are. Sorry, I shouldn't generalize and talk like this. My experience with the men that I have seen sometimes, like they struggle with emotion, particularly like coming from like African backgrounds, coming from like this position of strength, of power, of not being able to be weak. Even when my sisters came, there was no one else he would allow to like help him shave. He was in diapers by the end of it, but I would never have a nurse doing that for my father. That's my father, regardless of who he is, or what he's done, or anything else. And he sometimes, I'm proud of that helper because that helper needed to help. I think it was the right place to help. But even in those moments, you go back saying it's a month, and I'm an artist. If I'm not working, I'm not earning. And it was like 9 months, and I'm like, Jesus, like I had to pay for a full-time nanny with my animals. And, it went on and on and on. And it's the most horrendous place to be in. But for you, I think maybe respecting that your dad he couldn't, maybe he didn't know how to say, I need help, or you're right, or something like that. But your dream definitely like it resonated with me on that because, everyone in my family were like, put him in the homes. Why isn't he doing this? Why aren't you giving him this? Why aren't you doing that? And it's just like, let him make his own choice.
Yeah.
How much longer has he got? You know,
They call it palliative care, where it's just, as it was, they call it, I think, palliative care, where the goal is just comfort.
Yeah, but I was there. Like I didn't want him to, like, it's, it's heartbreaking, palliative care, not surrounded by anyone who loves you.
I guess that wasn't really the correct choice of words. I was thinking just like, not favoring, but giving importance to what the person wants over, what you think is what you would think is best for them. What do they want?
Well, yeah, exactly. He didn't want to leave his home. And if that meant me having to be there and putting my life on hold for a bit, then that's what had to happen. But yeah, we're all so stubborn. We're also like, I'm sure, I don't know if you have children, but, maybe your kids will be in the same situation one day, God forbid. And it's like the cycle of life, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a motivator for me. I mean, well, it's kind of funny saying this. While trying to help my father with everything that he was going through, and there were moments of clarity where he did, thank me and say, I think, I was doing the right thing. It was this weird thing where he would have those moments clarity, and then other times he would just, argue against it. But, there were times that I would be talking to an attorney trying to get, power of attorney and will and all that kind of stuff. And I remember the attorney asking me why I was in such a rush and why this, was being done now and, didn't have this paperwork in place. And basically I had to explain to him that my father was never, I'm going to say this, there's that phrase, hope for the best, plan for the worst. My father was hope for the best, plan for the best. And everybody else around him had better plan for the worst because he wouldn't accept anything but the best kind of thing. Which meant that I was the one that was raised to hope for the best, plan for the worst, because it was going to fall to me to be the one to be cleaning up the mess typically. And I don't remember why I brought that up. There was something you had said about, him accepting help. There were times that he did accept help, but, like you said, not always willingly.
No, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm painting it with a nice shiny picture, but there were horrific moments. I think people coming to the end of their life, like, and you can read about it, they get very vicious and mean and hurtful. And, I went through it with my nan, I went through it with my dad, and, it's watching something suffer. I recently lost a dog, which was like, she was really young, and it was I say accident, but the walker didn't have her on the lead, and this was only going back 2 months, and I've been devastated. Hence why I'm not working as much at the moment. I was so grateful and happy that she got knocked, and it was immediate. She died on impact because, watching anything suffer is terrible. Is really, really terrible. And, probably when you said, "Oh, you sound like you've gone through a lot of stuff." Yeah, since a young person, I'm fully aware that I'm a huge empath, that yes, life is very tiring and you don't necessarily choose the situations you're put in. But what you do have a choice is who you're going to be in the outside world and what you're going to turn into. And my fear is focusing on those terrible stuff and then just being an asshole to the world, but because the world was an asshole to you. You know what I mean? Yeah. But when you said about your dad, there were horrific times.
Yeah, I get that too. There was once or twice he said something that there's really no reason for him to say that, but No, I get that too. I have what you just said about having a choice of who you want to be. I don't know why, but there was something about the way you said that reminded me of. So one of the reasons that I've always been interested in psychology is something that happened to me when I must have been in like kindergarten, but I remember my stepmother and my father were having an argument about something or other in the living room. And there was something that I wanted to go do that I wanted to ask their permission for. And I remember walking into the room to ask them permission to go do this thing. And she turned to me and snapped at me and yelled at me. I don't even remember what she said. I just remember walking out of the room thinking, well, that wasn't very cool. Like, why'd she do that? And from that point forward, I found it interesting to wonder why people do the things that they do, understanding that in the moment, maybe they thought that they had a good reason to do it, even though it may not have always been the most optimal thing to do for the situation, if that makes sense. But there was something that you had said about, going through what you're going through and then having a choice of who it is that you want to be in the outside world. I think there was some connection there with what she was going through and who she was choosing to be. But
I don't know, but as an actress, if I was given that scene and it said process that as a child, I would look at it as both ends. So there's a woman who's not your biological mother who is maybe getting bothered by the fact that you need to go and do something and is having a personal argument with your dad, or, thinking, oh, what this isn't my duty type thing. And instead of her acting in kindness and love and saying, like, this is a kid and I'm being, again, using that word, selfish, and she's probably saying to your dad, you're selfish, or your son's selfish, or I don't know what the situation was, totally, like, just drove her, when you walked into that moment, to act out of her darkness instead of her light. And
sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but yeah, there's some background there. She didn't like me and she did everything she could to drive me out of the family, but that's a whole other conversation.
See, it's that type of stuff is really like heavy, because I actually, thank God, I'm in a lovely relationship at the moment, which is I'm single all the time. And the reason I'm single is because I have animals and I prioritize certain things, and people see that as sometimes, like, particularly some men are like babies. They want all the attention for themselves all the time. And if I just sniff someone being like not totally loving towards my animals, then you're gone. I have nothing to say to you. And more so, actually, my biggest fear, and why I don't have children yet, is that I fear my, obviously people break up all the time. I don't fear breaking up or being alone, but I do fear having a child that is only 50% mine, having to be surrounded by somebody else. And I'm a pretty intimidating woman. Like, exes are not even allowed to like follow me online, talk to me, and I can imagine if I was in a situation where I knew my child was around somebody who didn't like them, I'd burn the house down. I'd be like, okay, we're leaving. We're changing your name.
Scorched earth.
Yeah. So that's hard for you to experience that. But again, that's her weakness.
Yeah. Where were we? So we were talking about your teenage years, which were, for the most part, apparently good years.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Adult years. Then we've talked about Dexter and Joker and The Purge. Mm-hmm. Any particular scenes stand out to you from Dexter that scared you or concerned you?
I think when his dad first caught him and he had gone to the garden and dissected a dog. And that's when his dad discovered that he could never be normal.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I think that was a turning point in the show too. Like, it was fun and cheeky almost in the earlier parts of the show, because he's a murderer, but he's also a crime scene investigator. So you have that fun dichotomy. Mm-hmm. And you don't really think about it seriously until they do his backstory, and it's, the animal mutilation at a young age. Like, oh, he is the bad guy. Mm-hmm. Oh.
And I think that I don't know whether it was around that time, because I can't remember it exactly, but his the fact that his brother was there too, but because he was a few years older, by that point he was just totally gone. And there was that whole storyline about him having to find his brother, and his brother was doing awful stuff as well. And then there was like the emotional thing of, what do I do? Is he a bad guy? Yeah, I think that was probably one of my favorite series, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also touches on your love of animals.
Yeah, no one likes a movie that's what was it, John Wick?
Mm-hmm. Do not hurt the dog.
Yeah, well, there you go. You do that and that's it. It's over.
Yeah.
Any particular scene stand out to you from The Joker?
God, it was so brilliant. I think the whole thing was just amazing. I think where he was getting ready to do his show, that was always like in the mirror, the whole like trying to laugh, trying to put that face on. I think that's
the tugging at the corners of his mouth to make himself smile.
Yeah, like it makes me cry every time. Totally. Yeah. And I think the ending scene, like, you know, that you just had somebody else that was just going to come and take over, like somebody who just didn't get it. That was pretty powerful.
I wonder if there's something there that you identify with the getting ready as being an actress yourself.
Of course, yeah, particularly like on stage. So, 6 years in the West End, that's 8 shows a day, and you're sorry, 8 shows a week, not 8 shows a day. And
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
And sometimes like you're just not in the mood. Like when I moved here, I actually moved here to totally give up. I was like, I'm done. I was really ill. I was overworking. I just hated the industry with all of my soul. And for me, art is like sharing a part of me. And if you have nothing to share, then I've got nothing to give type thing. And this little process here actually was a process of me healing and finding my sparkle. And in a sense, this country particularly healed me to remind me that I'm an artist and it doesn't really matter where I am or what I'm doing. That's my soul, but also to learn how to preserve it. And I think like more so, TV and film is different to stage because on stage it's in the moment. Whether
it's live,
you don't get to fake it. In my opinion, you have.
There is no fix it in post in theater,
right?
No,
or second takes.
Exactly. There isn't, and I argue with my best friend who's more TV film based that she's like, oh, theatre actors aren't good, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, theatre is what it's about. Like to play one role beginning to end for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like
everyone always talks about the extended long one shot that is a feat in cinema nowadays. Everyone keeps trying to one up them on like the longest one shot. Theater is all one shot.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. What was that series? Was it called Adolescence? Have you seen it?
I think I've heard of it. I haven't seen it yet.
So it's a really interesting production company. It's with a Liverpudlian actor, and I think Brad Pitt backs this production house, and they did Adolescence in one shot. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. It was just phenomenal writing, phenomenal acting. Everything was amazing.
What'd you like about The Purge?
Scary.
Relatable.
Scary, buddy.
Scary because you can really see something like that happening in our modern world. And in London we've had riots, like a couple of really scary ones. I was in a play called The Streets, and that was about the riots, and they were like normal people, teachers. There was a doctor like going around, like just breaking into shops and taking things. And you think like, what motivates you to go and do that when you're an upstanding person of society? But, it's the buzz of, oh my God, that's free. It's like Black Friday. Like, I don't know what it's like where you guys are from, but I come from London, and there's like the people get into fights and like rip each other's hair, and like it's a TV. Like, stop it.
But it's so cheap.
Yeah, put the chicken down. It's fine.
It'll be there tomorrow.
But COVID as well. There was that thing that it was so sad to watch. The little old people that lived by themselves, and they just couldn't physically carry like loads of toilet paper. So they'd walk in and get their tiny loaf of bread and their thing, but there was nothing on the shelves because every, person had just taken it all. And that's part of society or part of purge that, we're quite similar. It's just, it's not governmentally run that way, that on one day during the year, you can do what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we were talking about is mass hysteria and just the quiet boiling tension underneath that. I guess when people are given an official excuse to do so, they go nuts.
Yeah.
And it's a totally real possibility.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they need an official excuse, but it certainly helps them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to get to that in our lifetime?
I hope not, but we're pretty close to recently. I don't know if you've heard any of the news of the stuff that's going on in the States, but it's not calm over here right now.
No, it's not just the States. I find it the whole world.
Oh yeah, no, it's everywhere. Yeah, you got it in the UK too, and over in Australia, Germany. Whole world's going
I don't
nuts.
remember where I learned the phrase. It was decades ago, but I really liked it. The phrase was, if there is no honor in the captain, there will be none on his ship.
Well, that is a very, very good phrase. And
yeah, it is.
And it doesn't just apply to the US. I mean, but it also somewhat applies in the sense that you're going to say something?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I was going to say the honor in the captain and applying on the ship. I just think we live in a very distracting world.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time, even if we want to make a difference, I think, or I myself, I feel like I'm helpless sometimes to change something, to do something, and that's why, like, just being kind, it seems like we just, like, particularly with social media, like, we are fed stuff according to what an algorithm thinks our side is. And, we listen to a story and we say, oh my God, is that really your view on it? How could you do that? And this like very aggressive, angry state, but actually they're watching the exact opposite of what we're watching. And they think that we're animals, it's really run by, like, divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
well,
how many people actually vote? Have you looked at the statistics for that? Because
I think it's like 50% of people.
Yeah.
I remember having to do it some years back in the UK, and I went through different areas, and there were some areas as low as 17% of people bothered to vote.
17%.
So they'll take an average of everywhere, but when you go and look into, like, different individual, like, boroughs and stuff, it's a lot lower. It's a lot lower because, are we going to make a difference? Or should I just scroll a little bit more on my reels? Yeah.
On the topic of, can we make a change, just be kind? I'm also reminded of the phrase, think global, act local.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can't change the world, but, change what we can. And if that just means being kind to our neighbor, then,
love thy neighbor. Yeah.
And vote.
Yeah. Love thy neighbor and vote.
Let's see. Going to ask these two questions again as a pair. Start with the negative so we can end on the positive. Do you remember the last person you hurt? Actually,
yeah. My mum today, bless her. My mum's here with me because she had to have a kidney operation. Oh. And we were speaking about something, and she's been, like, particularly unwell. She was supposed to go nearly 2 weeks ago, but she ended up getting a flu and had a fever and blah, blah, blah. And I had a really, really long day, and I knew I promised you guys to come on here. And she's very British and very particular, my mother, and likes things in her way and stuff. And I was trying to rush and get round, and then she started trying to talk about something, and I just couldn't agree with her. I just refused. And I was really harsh, and I shouldn't have done that to her. Like, she's just had fever and she's old. And she was like, well, this is how da 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 da. And I was like, no, but that's not how it is. Like, and I was so probably my mum today. She's
remember the last?
She heard her name. You can say hi, Mum. They asked me who was the last person I hurt, and I said you today. Okay, sorry. Could you bear with me 2 minutes? I've got
sure.
Okay, Stephanie.
Bless you.
God, can you hear that?
It was quiet, but I did, yes.
That was from her in the bathroom. Yeah.
So do you remember the last person you helped?
We did this one, didn't we?
We did.
So before we did the first person you hurt and helped, and now we're doing the last person you hurt and helped.
Last person I helped.
Your mother just now?
Yeah, that counts.
That would be help. Although she is waiting for her dinner, so I think she got a little bit. That's why she was like, I'm not speaking to you. Thanks, Manal. Which it is a bit mean because it's 7:30 over here. And then you can hear Steph, my cat in the background. He's like,
dinner time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cats are very impatient like that.
Yes. Okay, so the next question is not going to be horror. It's going to be any genre, and it's not going to be any particular time of life. It could cover your whole life. What movie would you say you have seen more times than any other?
All the musical ones as a child. Dirty Dancing, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Oliver Twist.
What, no Sound of Music?
Sound of Music, of course. Yeah, they would just be on repeat. And then my mum's like, you've been over an hour. Mum, it's a podcast and you're going to be live on TV being obnoxious. I'm sorry, on a podcast. She doesn't.
We're almost done.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Dirty Dancing was the first one that came to mind. Mm-hmm. Is that your favorite movie, or would you say that there's also something else that you'd say is your favorite movie?
Grease. Grease was my favorite.
Really? Why Grease?
Why Grease?
Mm-hmm.
The music. But I like Grease 1 and 2. No one liked Grease 2. I liked both of them.
I keep forgetting there was a sequel.
Yeah. No, the sequel was great. Like, I was obsessed with them. I think because I wanted to be just part of the gang. That's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Grease was definitely my favorite movie. But then I like other movies. Like, I think one of my top movies was Syriana. That was like not a hugely popular movie, but it was with Matt Damon. I liked the psychology behind that. Dr. Zhivago, the original one, though. Mm. Yeah.
Okay. Common themes, other than mental health, that have come up have been relationships, talking about your mom and your sisters. And also, even just now in Greece, you say you're wanting to be a part of the gang. There's a relationship there.
Belonging.
Also, identification, particularly with a number of different things, the mental, identifying with certain mental health things, but also, in terms of like the Joker and getting ready for, the work that you're doing, emotional connections, being kind. So I guess first question is, do you know why those things are of prime importance to you?
We live in a world, I kind of feel that growing up, it was, who are you, what do you do? Instead of nice to meet you, what's your name? Or, it's more about, I think, relevance. I mean, it's got much, much, much worse with social media because there's a lot of this like fantasy behind what we do. So awareness, like what you said, to start with your neighbor. Being kind is about your neighbor, but also the psychology part comes from it is, like, no one's a goddamn saint. We all suffer with problems. So to be able to keep yourself on a level where you're not acting out, you have to do the psychological part to be able to understand the human side. I think that's what I found in my journey. Does that answer your question?
Kind of. I guess let me phrase it a different way. So some of the other things that we've talked about, basically being like a first responder in an emergency, jumping into action, your interest in psychology. You talked about, I can't remember the correct phrase for it, forgive me, but working with special needs children, I think you said.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing that you just said here about who are you, what do you do versus how are you? Like there's a more personal connection there. And I guess what I was trying to get at is, because, in different people care about different things, right? Somebody else might not care about having this maybe potentially intense personal connection that you're seeking. And so I'm asking, as opposed to somebody else, why is this important to you?
Well, we can go into human design. We can go into star signs. It's important to me because that's fundamentally the person I am. Maybe confounding variables with being the youngest in the family, being part of like my home tribe. It's also important to me because I've had to understand it and be aware that it's important to me. Because at one point I probably wasn't aware of that. And, I'm an actress and I studied applied behavior analysis for special needs kids. That's nonverbal communication. And I'm pretty good with, my animals are all street animals apart from Beyonce, my Yorkshire Terrier, who I did buy, and I wouldn't have if I had so much understanding about street animals and strays. But I don't regret that at all because she's amazing. So I think it's just what makes me tick. And like you said, there's some people that really don't care at all. Like it doesn't bother them. I have many friends that, their life is quite like happily lived, playing computer.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, like not having to see anyone for ages, don't have a need to want to be around their family. And again, like it goes back to that thing about choices. We have choices. And, whether that's his character or her character, and did they choose that? That's kind of their business to sort out. I just know what my business is. And in who I am, I know that for me to be happy and to be positive, then I need those certain connections. I need those. And that's why I'm an artist. Like I want to share. I want to understand you, my world, my animals. As a kid.
Actually said something there that kind of triggered a memory for me. What you were talking about being the youngest of the family and nonverbal communication. In terms of, I don't want to say emotional manipulation because as a kid, you don't view it that way, but being aware of your parents' emotional states, and maybe in your case, also older siblings. I didn't realize it until much later when I was older and came to understand things like emotional manipulation, that there are things that I was doing as a child to protect myself, really, that I didn't understand as protection in that moment. And I guess there was something that you said there that reminded me of that. And I wonder if that speaks to you at all.
Emotional manipulation by who? As in you doing that or having it done to you?
Well, in retrospect, a little of both sometimes, but mainly I was thinking of it in terms of doing that as a child with my elders as a form of self-defense, if that makes sense.
Can be.
Yeah. I think all kids do that.
Right. I'm not saying that they don't.
I'm not sure of the question. Are you asking whether I was emotionally manipulative? Probably yes.
Well, yeah, I guess. I guess I was. As I'm thinking this through, like you pointed out, that is probably something that most kids do. So maybe it's not a particularly relevant thing to.
But do you know what? As well, where you were saying that, and you were saying you're analyzing yourself, like Debbie Ford was again another really big psychologist that talked about. She would say that if you point at somebody and say, you're blah, 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 there was an amazing picture where it was just a hand. And once you point one finger and say to somebody, you're...
Three pointing back at yourself, yes.
Exactly. Exactly. And she said, I had to have a really big talk with myself when I came home and my kid lied to me for the first time. And it was about eating a cookie or something. So before the nanny left, she said, oh, and he's already had his cookies. In fact, I gave him 2 cookies, blah, blah, blah. So then she left. And then he's like, oh, have you been a good boy doing your homework, whatever? And he said, yeah, can I have a cookie, Mom? And she said, you want a cookie? Have you been good? She said, yeah, I've been really good. Have you had one before? And he said, no, I haven't had one. He's like, do you promise? And she kind of tricked him into lying to her. Mm-hmm. And he said, for the first time in my life, my 3-4-year-old is lying to my face. And how do I feel about that? And she said, do you know what? Take it as something that it's a skill. It's a skill that if a man comes to pick him up from school and says, your mum sent me, I want my kid to know that he's never seen this man. And he's able to lie to that man and say, actually, my teacher's waiting for me because I know my mum's going to call her. And put it into a more positive vibe. But
it's a healthy way of looking at lying.
But with a kid, and ironically, this is leading into part of the argument with my mum. She mentioned something about her mum, and I'm like, Mum, she's dead. Like, let bygones be bygones. And it was about she back in my mum's day, like kids were given a good smack. Like that's how they were brought up. Like it was normal. Like there was no like you can't hit your kid or whatever. And my mum had forged her exam paper. She was only young, and she said that she tells this story that her mum kept on the table for like hours, like not letting her get up and like telling her to tell the truth, and she knew she was lying. My mum refused to do that, but my mum says the story in like real pride that she refused to say that. And I was saying to her, but Mum, you were lying to her. And that's, instead of me letting it go and being like, yeah, you're right, knowing that she's ill, I was arguing like, no, what you're doing is wrong. Like, and that's where I had to check myself just now and say, like, in a story, there's always one villain and one victim. So manipulation is something that happens on both sides, I think.
Well, I think what you're kind of getting at is adaptive versus maladaptive, and whether or not it's fit for cause in the moment. And it's kind of interesting now that I'm thinking about saying that, in that, the thing that your mom was proud of in that moment, I guess there's a question of was it adaptive or maladaptive, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
So the topics of, psychology and adaptive, maladaptive relationships and things like that, are these things that you do explore in other areas of your work or other genres? Or is this something that mainly comes up in horror? Like, is there something that you see horror as a genre helping you reach a particular topic that you can't reach in other genres? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I think a character's a character, like even if you're playing a character, like I think a lot of artists can have like a paying career for their whole life and never really be noticed. But even that person on set has maybe worked on the psychology of who he or she is and why they're there and why would they stand that way, or what would they have eaten for breakfast. Like that's all kind of psychology, isn't it? It's all that Stanislavski training of like dive into it. So I think on any level as an actor, or talking about Halloween coming up with this gig in Albania, they've asked for, spooky songs and stuff. So, you go into thinking about, okay, well, what characters am I going to be? How am I going to do my opening? What songs am I going to choose to sing here and here and here? So again, sharing an idea or a point of view through that. And that will always come from a basis of, I think, a psychological position. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that, and I'm wondering if this is because you're coming at it from primary, like theater background first, prior to the genre, versus some of our other guests maybe were horror fans before they got into being a creative person. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that's part two of, like you're saying, it's the psychology of the character, for example, but you're approaching it more from just seeing it as a role. You know what I'm saying?
Well, as you said that, so when you're on stage, just say you forget your lines and you don't know what to do. What are you going to do? You can't just like go back into being Manal. You're a character. Mm-hmm. Like, what does your character do? When you know the background of your character, when you get that opportunity for them to say, go, let loose, which I'm sure as well in a horror movie, I'm sure it's not all choreographed. And some of those things that you may choose to do need to be,
spontaneous.
Yeah, spontaneous. There was one of Guy Ritchie's movies, and it was was it Reservoir Dogs? And the guy was sat in the chair, and he cut his ear off, and he was like, "Oi, fucking rare." And then the guy's like, "Ooh," and like can't talk. And he's like, "I'm talking to you," and then he's like hysterically laughing, holding the guy's ear, and it's like, "Oh, I forgot you can't fucking hear me."
Yeah.
And
classic.
I was like, that is genius. And do you know what? That was improv. That he wasn't directed to do that.
No shit.
That was one of the best scenes ever. I suppose
Michael Madsen,
that's horror again, isn't it? Maybe I do watch horror.
maybe.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of horror in every genre, I think.
Yeah. No, it wasn't Guy Ritchie that did that.
No, that was Tarantino.
Sorry, excuse me. Yes, but they're quite similar in their movies,
There.
aren't they? Yeah. So does that conclude it? Because I can hear my mum in the background, like getting very.
Yes, pretty much. I mean, really, the only question is whether or not there's anything that you had thought of that you wanted to say earlier, but the conversation took a left turn that we didn't get a chance to say.
No, sorry, I wasn't talking too much about horror, and it was about psychology.
You're fine. It was fun. It was fun talking more about psychology for once.
Good conversation. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you very much for your time. You want to let everybody know what you're currently working on?
The semi-finals for Bulgaria's Got Talent, my own music video. So, yeah.
And for anybody out there who's listening and you want to come find out more about Manal, you can just go to horrormixeshappy.com, go to the episodes page, scroll down, find her link, go there. We'll have her bio and link to whatever it is that she wants to link us to. In the meantime, like, share, and subscribe, and do all the fun stuff.